Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back here in the Hendrickson Library at the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. Folks, you've never seen John Hendrickson move that fast. Yeah. So we are back here today, and I hit record, and John was still up messing around with the camera. And he saw me hit the button, and you should have seen him fly across the room, back here to his chair, grab the notes, ready to go.
I thought there was a donut over here. That's why.
Oh, come on. All right. So John and Chris back in the saddle today on a very cold and rainy Thursday afternoon. And we got a few things to cover today. I wanted to take a few moments today, John, get my coffee squared away here. I'm double fisting today. I got coffee and Dr. Pepper Zero, so it could be a wild ride. We want to cover. We had a very big event yesterday.
Yes,
we had the annual ITR NFIB Tax Day Luncheon. Huge turnout. Great comments. Folks got a lot of good feedback from us. We're going to go over that a little bit. Probably inside of that, we want to talk a little bit about what's going on at the Capitol with property tax bills. Again, it's that time of year, and we need to check in on that. And a little bit of a look in on where we're at with the governor's race. I get a lot of people, I'm sure you do too, John, asking us what's going on, and what we think is going to happen. At least they ask me that. I don't know if they ask you that, but I'm assuming they ask
a few
you that.
people. Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Yep,
All right.
yep.
Well, you talk to a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah.
You really do?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Do you have anything at the outset for us before we get started?
I do. I have trivia.
Okay, let's do it.
We had a winner from quite a while ago, and it was.
Well, thank you, John. I'm fully aware that it's been a while since we've recorded an episode. Thanks for the subtle reminder.
So, the question was, we're looking for the general, the Civil War general who fought for the Confederacy, who was born on St. Patrick's Day. He was nicknamed the Stonewall of the West, and he was killed at the Battle of Franklin.
And the answer being?
General Patrick Claiborne.
Okay.
And we had a first-time winner. And I think he was the only one that answered it, and it was Eric Goranson.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations. Your ITR merch is in the mail.
Yeah.
Such that it is. So.
And then I have a really easy one for this week because I wasn't prepared, so I just thought of it.
Okay, good.
But this one is an Iowa-related question.
All right.
Modern history.
Wow. So put your 1920s thinking cap on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So at one time, the Des Moines Register had a famous political cartoonist. He also was a friend of conservation, and so some of his art was within, I believe, the duck stamp. And then he was also a friend of Herbert Hoover, and did a lot of cartoons of Hoover. And so we're looking for the name of this famous Des Moines Register editorial cartoonist, and his cartoons were national, and so he was a famous political cartoonist on a national level as well. So,
and you folks think I'm joking? John says we've got modern Iowa, and he's going to Friends of Hoover.
Yeah,
okay,
that's right.
All right. So there you have it. It's not just me. Okay, well, have at it, folks, and tell us what you got. All right. This is a show that we do once a year, John, trying to go back over the results of the ITR Tax Day Luncheon, which was held yesterday downtown at the Hilton. They do a very nice job. We're happy to put it on. They just take care of everything. They do a really good job down there. We're always really pleased with that. And our guest speaker this year was Governor Kim Reynolds, who has done this periodically in the past for us, and it is always a treat. It's no surprise to our listeners because we've talked about so much how much we think of Governor Reynolds. Not just her, and I think Chris Ingstead did a great job in his comments of saying this, that we don't just appreciate her for the pieces of legislation that she has shepherded through and the tax reform and all those things, but just who she's been as an individual and a leader and how valuable she's been to the state of Iowa. So it's just great to have her here in her last year in office. So as we go through that, we're going to talk through a few of the quotes there and maybe break that apart a little bit, but I think we had about 200 people there. I mean, the room felt really big, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I think most of the tables were full. So
yeah. And it was much. we were having pre-production without you this morning, John, because you decided to take the morning off. And we were talking about how that much is said about maybe an enthusiasm gap among conservatives and liberals or Democrats and Republicans right now. I'll tell you what, I felt a lot of enthusiasm in that room yesterday. A lot of enthusiasm for what has been accomplished of the conservative agenda and what lies ahead. I'm just going to say, I know it's a small sample. But our members, we had a bigger turnout than we've had, I think, over the last couple of years, and folks were excited. I mean, you probably talked to as many people there as I did because I was busy fussing with all the details. But what's your perspective of just the audience there and our members?
I think that's accurate. I would agree with that, and the folks I talked with, and I think what we heard yesterday from the governor was just a good reminder of some of the good policies that Iowa has accomplished over the past several years. And I think it's sometimes easy to forget that, especially with the news cycle we've been in. I mean, not just in recent months, but I mean, just the recent year or so. I mean, there's just been one major event after another, so it's easy to forget some of the major things that the legislature and Governor Reynolds has done. And I think, listening to the governor's remarks, we were reminded of just how much, at least, of course, the remarks focused on tax policy, and we know there's been more things than that. But at least from that perspective, Iowa's done a lot on tax policy since 2017. And that story, it can be easily forgotten.
It is. I know you spent a lot of time talking to colleagues, different folks around the country in the policy world, and time and again over these last 10 years, you can put the accomplishments that Iowa has achieved up against any state, and what we've done in this amount of time is the way I've said it, I think it's not just unprecedented over these last 10 years. I think it's some of the most unprecedented progress that is made in the history of the Republic.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And the governor pointed that out yesterday. And I'm trying to think of exactly what content, because I don't want to butcher the quote, but something along the lines of sixth worst to sixth best. She came around on that. And there's a million different ways to dissect all of that and try to come up with a metric from it. But it is a series of tax reforms, and it's not just on the individual income tax. It's on inheritance tax. It's on corporate taxes. It has been, some of it is just good governance, the sales tax modernization that you like to remind us of.
Yeah.
And there's the regulatory things, and there's the government efficiency things, and boards and commissions. And then you have her leadership during COVID to make sure you protected individual freedoms. There isn't anybody out there that has been as committed to the cause of limited government and individual freedom and had as much success across the country as Governor Kim Reynolds.
Yeah. You reminded me of one story she shared with us, and it was about the second half of the government reorg bill that legislature passed that dealt with the boards and commissions, and they eliminated 83. And then she shared, I can't remember if it was Mississippi or Alabama.
I think it was Mississippi.
Yeah.
I think she talked about Governor Tate Reeves.
Yes, yeah. And I think they wanted to eliminate, was it 3 or 5? Less than 10, and they couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
And Iowa got rid of 83. And I remember during that debate, and you literally had the special interests come out of the woodwork saying that, for example, if you get rid of the elevator board, it wouldn't be safe to step in an elevator in Iowa. So you had all these people lobbying the legislature trying to prevent this reform from happening.
It shows you how hard this stuff is.
Yes, yeah.
That you have an election, you elect certain people, and they just wake up and decide to do it. It doesn't work that way. There's real work, not just in writing the piece of policy, but actually getting in the trenches and working with the public, working with legislators, working with the lobby, and building a coalition that can get something done. It's really, and you don't get those victories unless you are truly committed to the cause. And that's not to say there aren't committed folks around that are committed to the cause. That, I mean, they may just not be able to get it done because it's hard. But this isn't Governor Reynolds or Jack Whitver or Pat Grassley or whoever was at the table during these that just, hey, well, let's give this a try and see if they can get it done. They were committed to doing the hard thing, and they believed in it. If they didn't believe in it, they wouldn't put in the effort and spend the political capital to get these things done. So I think it's just fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
As we have said time and again. Going a little deeper in some of these quotes, John, and I've got a lot of notes here, and I don't know that our listeners want to bear with us all the way through here. The record on income tax relief is well established, right? But she made a comment in here because we have talked a lot about spending. You have to limit spending to be able to do this. If we want property tax relief, we have to limit spending. So the governor actually mentioned this, and this was in the context of the income taxes. But I'm going to read this. But, you just can't cut taxes. Perhaps the most important thing we've done alongside tax cuts is we've made sure not to lose sight of the fiscal responsibility that make them sustainable. And that's a really important component. And if you look at some of the states that cut taxes significantly, had to reverse course and increase them, it's because they didn't maintain their fiscal responsibility so that they could not only sustain the existing tax cuts, but look for opportunities to continue to bring them down. Yes. I mean, that's the thing. You get the tax cuts because you were able to hold the line on spending, and you have to sustain that. You can't continue to spend. That has been the case sometimes in other experiments around the country. And that also gives you the opportunity to bring down those taxes later.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. And we're seeing this in real time. And I think we're seeing right now at least 19 bills across the nation of looking at implementing some form of new wealth tax, which would be a form of income tax. And and this is interesting because this is just recent IRS data that just came out, and this is from an editorial in the Washington Times reporting on this, and the article is called "The Blue State Fleecing: Tax and Spend Policies Don't Work When There's a Red State Alternative." Let me just read one quote of this, and it says, During this period, and this is 2023 with the most recent data, Americans fled high-tax blue states for low-tax red ones. The IRS recently released their net migration data for 2023, showing that red states gained $37.2 billion in income and added close to 500,000 new tax filers. Blue states, meanwhile, lost close to $41 billion in revenue and over 500,000 filers. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's people are mobile. You're seeing it around the country. They are fleeing the high tax, high regulation, stagnant blue states, and they are fleeing to red states. And this process is not new. It's been happening.
Yeah.
But in these red states, you have vibrant economies, places that people want to live. And I'm thankful that Iowa gets to be part of that.
Yeah. In Washington State, which doesn't have an income tax, the governor, I believe, signed it now. And I think it's going through a legal challenge, but they just signed a 9.9% income tax. And even a liberal company like Starbucks is looking at expanding their corporate presence in Nashville instead of the state of Washington as a result.
The governor moved on. I think the big thing this year, as we've talked about, is property taxes. And so she mentioned, obviously, where things are at and talked about that. And she set out her vision very clearly in the condition of the state address. She was very clear. We talked about this a little bit in the Q&A later about spending being such a critical component of, just like it was on income tax, it's the same way at the local level. So her comments to kind of kick off the property tax conversation, she says it's on the docket this year, property taxes. So it's the last big thing we're going to try and get accomplished this year. But over the last 2 years, we've seen property tax rise more than 10%, and it's just not that sustainable. She goes on to talk about how the different chambers have introduced a bill, and does mention here later accelerating SAVE funding, which I think is a good piece that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about. So I'm going to jump in here and kind of give my own perspective as well, is that all the governor, House, Senate each have a bill. We're at the point in session. It's now April. There should only be about 3 weeks left in session, if that. I fear they might go long. Trying to put these pieces together in what is the package that can pass. And I know because it's sensitive at this point in negotiations, the governor maybe is talking more about the consensus building part of this and the pieces that she wants. I'm still optimistic. I said this yesterday, John. I'm still optimistic that we're going to get a good bill. It's not going to have everything that there may be some pieces we'd rather not see in there. Don't know yet. May not be everything we want. And this is the nature of the legislative process. It's hard. And you have to be willing to accept maybe some things that, well, we have to accept it. We don't get a vote. But I still think we're going to get a really good bill at the end of all of this. What are thinking about what the governor had to say about property taxes, where things are at right now, do you share my optimism or are you getting concerned?
I tend to be a pessimist in all things, so I probably I'm probably more pessimistic than most people, but I hope you're right. I'm a little more pessimistic, I think, but I do think. I thought what the governor said in her remarks was spot on about the need to restrain spending, and I think that's the most important part of the reform is, and I'm not sure where they, because I'm not on the inside, so I don't know where they, what the sticking point is on some of these negotiations. But for me, I think the key part of the reform is getting a good strong property tax cap as part of it. Yeah. And I know there's all these other moving pieces, but I think that is the most vital piece there.
I think how that cap is structured, all of the interested parties here, even legislative Democrats, have authored some form of a revenue limitation. Right?
Yes.
So
yes.
We think if we get a bill, it seems clear we're going to get something. It's how is that structured? Are we going to include something for new growth in communities that gets talked about? Are we going to include something more specific for inflation that gets talked about? In pre-production, when we were talking about this, the 2% was supposed to cover inflation. I mean, that's kind of where that came up with, that 2% being a rough historical average of it, but be that as it may, are you going to go find other revenue to supplant that? Are we going to try and hold cities and counties harmless? How much flexibility are we going to continue to give them, and so on and so forth? Those are all pieces. What if anything will we do on TIF? Will we include something like the governor talked about on SAVE being part of the solution? There's all those different pieces, and I've talked with people that feel really strongly about a growth factor in this. I can argue against it, but I understand a lot of people, especially in a place like Waukee or Ankeny or Bettendorf, think that makes sense. There are people that really struggle getting there on TIF. Again, I think that's a great idea to start putting some guardrails on it, but I understand. There are people that start from the premise that, they believe in local governments and we shouldn't restrict them any further. And we ought to give them all the flexibility in the world. That's one where I really begin to start pushing back, because that's the problem. I mean, that's the root of this, is that they are spending too much, and we do need to put some guardrails on it. So I'm a little less patient on that one, but anyway, and I'm going to come back to that later. I want to move on here a little bit to something else the governor said. And she had been talking about some of the government efficiency things that she had done, but then tied that to some of the grant funding that they're talking about for local governments. But she said this was interesting, and we haven't talked a lot about this, John. I mean, it's sort of implicit in how we think about the issue, but I think there is even more that can be done at the local level once the bill is passed by sharing services, eliminating duplication, reducing costs. Local governments can do kind of what we've done at the state level. And believe me, a lot of them are already doing that, acknowledging that there are some good actors. So there are some just awesome examples out there of how they're leading and trying to find ways they can also streamline how they serve the same people that they're elected to serve. So I appreciate that. They're going to continue working to deliver a better value for taxpayers. And talking about how Iowans need to show up and be a part of that. What do you make of this streamlining efficiency at the local level, John?
I think it's an important part of the of this whole process of property tax reform, and I think the governor is absolutely right. I mean, this was a piece of her fiscal policy at the state level, and I think it's an important part of fiscal conservatism altogether, because when you look at government reform or streamlining government efficiency, whatever you want to call it, I mean, this is one way you look at it when you consider conservative budgeting and the governor said this leading into the session when she was doing her property tax town halls around the state, is basically she was saying that, Iowans are going to have to think about local government differently, and local government is also going to have to start doing things differently. And for example, we put an article up, I think this week. I think it's up. I'd have to, not sure, but on the city of Austin.
Oh, yeah.
A very, very progressive city, a very liberal city, Austin, Texas. The voters there had rejected basically an effort to increase property taxes for more spending, and as a result, the city responded by basically respecting the taxpayers and saying, okay, we're gonna now take a approach of doing what they call an inefficiency audit, or a third party review of basically our entire city government. And that's just one example. Yeah. And I think what the governor is saying is that's, Iowa cities need to start doing the same thing, and some are doing that. Mm-hmm. But they're going to, you can't, this idea that, we can do property tax reform and then local governments can continue to spend and operate as usual is not going to work, because it's just like trying to get out of credit card debt and saying, well, I want to pay off this credit card, but I'm going to continue to spend like I am. Yeah. It's just not going to happen.
I've said it before. I've said it yesterday at this event. I will say it again now. If you want to provide property tax relief to Iowans, the only real property tax relief is one that reduces Iowans' total cost of government. And the only way you can do that is to have government spend less. If you are not starting from that premise, your property tax bill will fall short. We've simplified this in saying that, with regard to the property tax statements, I care about what I pay. Frankly, I'll take that even one step further. All I care about is how much I pay globally. Income tax, sales tax, property tax, on and on and on. All the time. I want that thing to be as small as possible. I do not want to pay more in one tax to save in another. I may come out a little bit better or worse than that, but as a state, it's all the same. We have to accept the premise that local governments will need to spend less. And the only vehicle available to us globally, statewide, is to limit how much they can spend, because not enough of them are doing it on their own. And that is underlying all of this. And it's just going to happen, and it comes back to, what are you doing with your cap? I'm coming around to a very long-winded way of saying it's very important how you structure this cap, because it has to actually limit spending, or government will do the same thing it always does, is find every loophole to continue to spend. and it goes things big and small. We need to work on bonding. I know a lot of legislators want to limit that. How much debt can you go into? That's another thing that has to be considered in how you structure a cap. All the fees, franchise fees. We talked about that at the event yesterday. This is local governments continue to do this. They raise their utility franchise fees to supplant what they think may be a loss of revenue on the property tax side. It's still Iowans paying taxes. I had a member come up to me yesterday and wanted to work on dog licensing fees. Again, it's more tax. That might be a small piece compared to some of the other big ticket items, but it's still government taxing to be able to spend what they want to spend. And then, to your point, the credit card analogy is absolutely correct. You don't just go open another credit card because you can't spend any more on the one you got. That's what too many local governments are going to do. They're just going to go find where's the other crack, where's the other loophole where I can spend more on this side. It has to be a strong spending limitation. Did I cover that?
Yeah, no, okay. It's absolutely no. You're absolutely right on that, and I think that's that's the heart of this whole debate.
Yeah.
And this morning I was having that discussion with someone from Ohio who was talking about property tax reform there, and it's it all comes back to spending and that I think you made this comment in kind of in the closing remarks of our luncheon yesterday about if you look at from the state perspective, this is what the state had done in order to get to the 3.8% flat tax was to limit spending and really what we should say that and it's not really limiting spending, it's slowing the growth of spending because it's the budget's still increased and even with the cap, spending is still gonna this is not as necessarily going to be a cut. It's just slowing the growth. And I was there's always a saying that's only in government is when you slow the growth of something, is it considered a cut?
Yeah. Well, we're at the point in session where the forces of government, the voices of government, are doing everything they can to reduce, to deflect, to try and to take as much out of these bills as they can so that they can continue to do whatever they want. They're fighting against any number of different provisions of it. And as the governor pointed out yesterday at the subcommittee process at the Capitol, too often we stand alone as the lone voice of the taxpayer in that process. A room full of folks that will tell you how this impacts government, and us continuing to stand there and say how this impacts the average Iowa taxpayer.
That's a frustrating part because a lot of times in these discussions, that's all you hear is the how is this going to impact government?
Right.
And it's it's the taxpayer that's
I mean, if this,
sitting in the corner over there.
If the decision point on this bill is how is this going to impact government, then we're lost.
Yeah. Yep.
If the decision point is how is this going to benefit the Iowa taxpayer, then we're in the game.
Yes.
Yeah. We got a chance.
Absolutely.
Good.
I think that's a great way to define it.
Good. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
You just kind of came to me. So good.
I like that.
All right, good. Well, if you approve, then we must be on to something. I want to check in real quick. So that's there's a lot more about tax day out there, but great event, and we're going to have our local government symposium this summer. More details coming out on that for our friends that are part of either elected officials or activists that they're really focused on local government things. It's going to be a great event this summer. Checking into the governor's race real quick, John. I don't know that it's getting real. We are down to about 2 months left, and you're starting to see paid media pop up. Congressman Feenstra's on TV with ads. I got a piece of mail from, actually, I think it was addressed to my wife, but it didn't matter, from the Adam Steen campaign. It was sort of a 50-50. Interestingly, the Randy Feenstra TV ad is a hit on Rob Sand and then a positive for him. The Steen mailer was a hit on Feenstra and then positive Steen. So that tracks a little bit that I think Congressman Feenstra is sort of running a general election type of campaign right now. Adam Steen trying to get ahead in the primary. Zach Lane is doing a statewide tour right now. I just based on what I've seen on social media, has gotten pretty good turnout on that, really focusing on some of the land issues, land ownership issues. That it's interesting stuff, and they're issues that I don't think anybody else in the field's talking about, for better or for worse. So anyway, there was the whole dust up between the Steen campaign and Representative Eddie Andrews over the recount stuff. I didn't follow it real close, John. I guess I don't get real worked up over challenging petitions. That's just part of the game. There was some allegations of wrongdoing in there. I know that Adam Steen had a campaign shakeup over that, brought in some different folks. So we'll see. I don't think that moves a lot of voters. I think that's noise, but some hurt feelings along the way on that. Did you really have anything else to say? I think it's process stuff. I don't think process stuff wins the day. I think people really want to know what about the issues and how you're going to make change on those.
I think that's true, and especially this primary. I think it's going to be very issue specific for a lot of Republican primary voters. Yeah.
I want to just quickly, I think before we're done, because I still think that Congressman Feenstra is a front runner in this campaign. I don't know if we even talked about this in the last couple of days, John, because we were busy with Tax Day, but Congressman Feenstra gave an interview, I'm guessing with Kay Henderson at Radio Iowa. She authored the article, had some great comments on income tax, really good stuff. And, Congressman Feenstra, a former Ways and Means chair in the Iowa Senate, said, here's what he said: "We have to make sure that we continue to figure out solutions to lower income tax and get rid of it at some point. But we've got to do it in a reasonable manner to make sure that we're paying our bills as we move forward." I agree with every word of that. I think that's good stuff. Any thoughts on that income tax statement?
No, I think he was right. I mean, he has the goal of further income tax reform. This is something the governor said at the lunch too, as well. That Iowa can't be complacent, and something that we have said as an organization. And certainly he was right that in order to do that, you have to restrain spending. And in the Cedar Rapids Gazette, there was kind of more in-depth interview of this story as well, where he talked a little bit about the need for conservative budgeting, which I liked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and that's the foundation we talked about earlier at the front end of the show, and being able to pay your bills. And he's exactly right. It'd be real easy for us to just talk, we need to eliminate the income tax this year. Done. Get rid of it. Okay. How do you get there? How do you prevent the bad thing from happening? We want to get there. We just want to get there the right way. So I think that is, I have to read. I didn't read that article in the Gazette. I'll have to do that. I like that. On the flip side, though, there's another piece in here that I don't want to be too critical on one statement in an interview, but he's asked about property taxes, and he supports the senior freeze, and then goes on to say, "We cannot have a one-size-fits-all," Feenstra said, "meaning that I'm willing to work the legislature on lowering property taxes, but what's happening in Des Moines and other places might be quite different from what's happening in small towns." I mean, well, yes, every city's budget is different. We already have one-size-fits-all solutions. I mean, we've accepted that premise, John.
Yeah.
I mean, there are limits on taxation. There are limits on bonding. The legislature has set any number of restrictions on local government. So we've already done that part.
Yeah.
Now, what we're talking about is just a different sort of limitation, right? And I think the problem is, and why I'm a little troubled by that statement, is I guess I tend to believe that something that looks more one-size-fits-all is the only thing that's going to actually fix the problem. But I'll let you. I'm not trying to dunk on that because it's one statement, and I think he clearly, and taken in the context of this whole article, clearly wants to achieve tax relief across the board. But that one-size-fits-all, because I've heard that creep into some different messaging, and I think my point is we do this all the time. Anytime we've done preemption, we've had one size. We did preemption on minimum wage. We did preemption on carrying weapons. We've done preemption on paper bags. So we do this all the time. Why not just go ahead and do it on the thing that Iowans are really fired up about, which is their property taxes?
Yeah. I mean, I forgot about that quote in there, and I think you're absolutely right, and yeah, I would disagree, and I think this is a myth that has come up, and we've seen this in previous property tax debates as well, that we can't have a one size fits all approach because everyone, all the cities and counties are different in Iowa, so you just can't micromanage, and it goes back to it's part of that local control argument that is constantly brought up, and
I've heard that micromanage. It certainly wasn't from. We're not micromanaging.
No,
this is the opposite of micromanaging, John. We're just saying no more across the board. Sorry, micromanaging would be say, okay, in Ackley, you guys can't have a new splash pad, but in Marshalltown, you guys are good to go on the new aquatic center, and in Atlantic, nothing. That's micromanaging, is going in on each specific city. We're just saying across the board, stop.
That's right.
Or spend a little less.
Yeah.
So
no, you're absolutely.
These are just, they throw these things out. This is all messaging that comes from local government, is that sounds bad, and so we're going to use this term, and it's just.
Well, and I took that quote as trying to be a cautious approach to property tax by saying, well, I support a cap, but yet
Right.
every community is different, so we got to be.
And if this is, and I'm please hear me when I say that I'm not being overly critical, because this could mean any number of things. If it's to say that we need if he believes we need a growth percentage, okay, look, that might work. That might create that difference. But if this is, I think he's saying he wants some sort of limitation. But it's just, I point that out because the words that are creeping into the conversation matter. And broadly, I think Congressman Feenstra is good on tax policy. Clearly, he's great on the income tax stuff. And I think he'd be, if he gets elected governor, I think he's going to be a good partner in trying to get good things done. But we just got to make sure we stay focused on what it is we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's why I think that's why this one size fits all approach has been thrown in there, and micromanaging. Yeah. All that is part of this local control effort to undermine property tax reform.
John, I'm trying to land the airplane here, and you said local control.
Yeah.
Are you trying to make this last another 20 minutes?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
All right. I'm gonna just.
So I know you love to talk about that.
Serenity now.
Yeah.
And take my George Costanza
Yes.
moment here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be done. Okay. So
can I be like Lloyd Braun and pretend I'm selling computers? I need one of those bells.
All right. We're officially done here. All right. Tax day was a big success. We're excited. Iowans are excited. We're going to get some good stuff done on property taxes. The future's bright. That's what I've got to say today. All right.
One more closing comment.
Of course.
It's just what tax day is.
Yeah.
What was fun yesterday too, not just with the governor, but is just listening to all the people that were commenting about the podcast. And so I just wanted to say it was fun to listen to meet people and thank them for listening and all the good feedback we received. So
I will tell you, I had multiple people say, well, it's good to see you, Chris. Where's John? I want to meet John. So that's all that. Anyway, so all those folks that haven't had a chance to meet John yet or didn't get to yesterday, we endeavor to make that possible. We're going to get John out on the road, and he's going to go out and meet everybody.
We'll have a ITR live coffee or something.
All right, that'll be good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks again for joining us, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. And with that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.